All right, we're rolling.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our NBOA clinics. This is number 5. We're going to talk to, Quinn is with us again, and Ernest and Gregory have been kind enough to come back again, actually by popular demand. Um, so we're going to discuss officials, movement and positioning a little bit. We talk about that at just about every one of our clinics. We bring something in about movement and positioning by the officials. I think Greg brought this up maybe last week sometime. You can be the best rules guy in the world, but if you're not getting great looks at plays, your call accuracy is not going to be good enough. Um, by the same token, if you've got great looks at plays, but you don't know a single rule, you're going to struggle with your call accuracy. So movement and positioning is just a big part of the equation. That's why we spend so much time talking about it. Let's take a look at some clips that'll focus in on some of the things that we've talked about over the last 4 clinics. The first one, Ernest, you and Greg, if you will kind of break this down for us as to what you're seeing and what you like and what you don't like.
So with this clip, what I want to point out is, and I think Ernest is going to talk about this in a little bit too. When it comes to moving and getting the right angle, I love how these referees are trying to fight for the look, right? They're not letting players walk in front of them and just accepting, I got a closed look. And they're also not moving all over the place trying to make it look like I'm doing the good job at refereeing. The referee who's on ball, you can see that he's actively trying to referee this play,
Mhm.
which I absolutely love. He's moving to get the right angle. They're fighting for the angle. You have the lead referee who you can tell, like, hey, should I go over there? Should I not go over there? Granted, he runs across the lane, which we would love for him not to do. Once he recognizes that he's like, oh, my feet are getting ready to go, that's your cue to get the close down because you can just walk with purpose rather than run to the other side. And then from the old trail, new slot position, that referee coming out on the floor, we have a rotation, recognize we have a rotation. Sure, he moved down to slot, and we'll talk about coverage on his play in a little bit. But again, as a crew, this is a good example of we're not just moving just to move. We're actually moving to referee because I'm trying to get a better look at a play.
Yeah.
Ernest, the question came up. Looks like there's a foul. If you see the replay on this, there
Mhm.
might be a foul up high on this at the rim. What do you think about the slot? If the slot is 100% sure, what do you think about the slot coming across and getting this?
So on this play, if the slot feels right, he's 100%, 125%. Go get it, right? I think when you see it slow down, it looks like there's some contact. Um, so if he feels confident enough, I have no problem with him firing right there to go get that whistle. But again, we want to make sure on these plays, right, we're looking at the point of contact. So we feels like that hit or what looks like could be a hit right there to the right arm affected the dunk attempt. If slot instead of, I know he moved, like Greg said, he moved down to kind of create an angle. But I think if he stops like free throw line extended and maybe takes a half a curl on the court, he can see and maybe he'd have a better idea whether he wanted to pull that trigger on that foul or not. The only other thing I'd have, I know Greg talked about the lead. Um, if the lead, again, this is up high, right? I don't think the lead has the best angle. He passes. I'm okay with that. Like, I think this is one of those middle 50-50 gray area where if we fire, we're good. If we pass on it, we're good. We just got to understand now. We understand we have a play like this. Now we go on the other end. We want to catalog that play and be consistent, right? So now we don't have a foul here, but we got something maybe marginal up top. We don't want to be great and be like, oh, yep, I got it, right? Because now what is the coach going to say? Well, we just had something on this end. So this is one of those ones where if we do fire from slot, make sure we have something close to the rim, right? That's a 50-50 play. We're gonna give them the same call. So or something similar, not the same, but something similar. So but I agree with Greg. I like the movement on this.
Definitely.
Last thing I'll just mention this very briefly. You know, we have a new mechanic this year in high school basketball. You'll notice this ball goes out of bounds here, and the lead is going to come across. This is the proper mechanic to put the ball in play. We're going the other way. He's going to come across the lane. He's not going to bounce the ball across the lane. We have a new mechanic this year that allows you to bounce the ball across the lane, as long as if you're going the other way, from the baseline and there's not pressure, in the backcourt. Whether or not you use that new mechanic, I'm going to leave that to a crew in my games, to a crew decision. As long as my expectation is that the crew will pregame that and when they will decide before the basketball game that they are or they are not going to bounce the ball across the lane. It makes no difference to me as long as the crew is on the same page from the get-go, and as long as we are exercising good officiating mechanics. Sweep the floor before you put the ball in play every single time. I think that's one of the reasons why some supervisors may not want to use the new mechanic because they're afraid that, you know, the lead official won't see that there's, or the administrative official won't see that there's pressure in the backcourt and he'll bounce the ball across when he's not supposed to. Sweep the floor. Sweep the floor and see what's going on before you put the ball in play. All right, second clip. Greg, you and Ernest, it's your podcast, not mine.
Those subscriber numbers are looking great, by the way.
Yeah, I'm getting hits already.
And again, this is not to like pick on any referees or anything like that. We're all here just trying to learn. But my man here at Slot, he clearly likes to dance because he was in such a good position at the beginning of the clip. You don't have to move. What I want to talk about with this clip specifically is when we are moving on the floor to referee, we want to have purposeful movements. We don't want any wasted movements. And so if we are going to move into a new position, it has to be because it's going to help us either get a better look or maybe there's a rotation happening that is forcing me to move. But if you have the look you want, you got an A+ look on most plays on this position, I could be at free throw line extended and not move at all and have an A+ look on basically every single play that happened. And so it's almost as if he like walks himself into a closed look because maybe he just feels like, hey, I'm standing still too long and I should be moving. Like something should be happening. You don't always have to move just because nothing is happening. You want to be able to move when you know you're going to have a better angle at a play. And so here with this slot referee, which is referee at the bottom of the screen, he's moving, he's doing a lot of moving, but again, what angle is getting better? How much of a better look is he getting with the movement that he's doing? He doesn't have to do that. If his left foot is on the free throw line and his right foot is at the line under the ACC from the beginning of this clip to the end of this clip, he's in a great position at every single one of these plays. He doesn't have to move at all.
Very good. Last thing I want to say on this clip is we're going to have a jump shot here at the end that's clearly in the trail's primary. And it's a defended jump shot. Stay with it. Don't follow the flight of the ball on a shot. Stay with that closeout play. See it from the beginning to the end. If that either one of those players ends up on the floor, all I want is a explanation from the official who can tell me I clearly saw that play from beginning to end. This is exactly what happened or what didn't happen. Next clip.
So we're going to have a drive to the basket here and then a foul call here. So the first thing I want to talk about is just the lead. Anytime we're going to put air in the whistle, we want to make sure we have an open look at the play, right? And so we want to make sure, can I see in between players? Can I see, can I see whether, the defender's moving A to B, or am I looking at their back, right? And I think if we're lead in that case, I think it's pretty hard to argue that we have an open look at this play. We're pretty well looking at the back of the defender. So while this may or may not be a foul, and from this angle, I think it's actually hard to tell. Um, so while this may or may not be a foul, certainly lead is not in a position here, doesn't have a look to put air in the whistle here. Now, the official that I think could have a look here is C. So if we watch this play as it develops, so it starts in trails primary, but he's going to come around one screen here, and then he's going to go left on this defender here. And now the person with the best opportunity to have an open look at this play is going to be the C. Now, right now, the C is standing, it appears, video is a little grainy, but it appears the C is pretty well standing, like perfectly parallel shoulders on the sideline. Probably has a decent look at this play, but if the C would take an angle themselves 45 degrees and maybe take a half step out onto, like diagonally up and out onto the court, they're going to have a perfect look in between this play here. Now there is a replay here, and I think we'll see that ultimately, I think this is probably is the correct call. There's actually another replay, I think. Yeah, here we go. This baseline replay. So the defender goes out A to B into the shooter, but there's no way the lead can see that. The lead's guessing. And again, we want to be, we don't want to get in a habit of guessing, even when we go back and look at film like this, sometimes we go, okay, that was right, but I'm beating myself up over it because even though we were ultimately right, this is a bad habit. This is going to get me in trouble more often than I'm going to get a call right from it. So again, just discipline to know that you have a closed look and not to blow your whistle.
Very good. Next clip. Ernest. This is you and Greg.
So while this clip is rolling, look where slot is. Great
Mm-hmm.
position. Up. Why
Mm-hmm.
did we take 2 steps up? What angle again does that give us? And had we just stayed where we were, nothing really happened on the play. We didn't necessarily miss a play, but again, good habits. I don't have to necessarily move here to get a better angle because nothing I do is going to get me a better angle. I already have a great angle. Okay. So there's not really any kind of like big post matchup that we have to be aware of on this clip. It's a one-on-one play in the corner. A referee should be especially in a championship game, should be able to referee that by themselves.
Great.
And now I say that to cue up Ernest. Ernest, if you want to go ahead and talk about the lead referee, there's a reason why I said, hey, my partner can referee this play by themselves.
All right. So I'll pick it up from here. So if you look at it, pause it real quick. Right. So we got some action up top. The lead, you can't see his face, but I've looked at it before. The lead, he's looking to see where the ball is. So he's watching this matchup up here. So if you think about it, Slot takes a couple steps up. Greg talked about it. If he just stays right where he is, no need, right? But this is what I want us to tell ourselves. If you feel that lead that you have to run across the baseline, you're already too late to rotate. Okay. So if you feel like you have to go run, trot, jog to go from close down to close down from one side to the other at lead, you're already too late. Now, what happens, and we get ourselves in trouble. So he comes over, right? Again, look at how many players are on the other side of the floor. Okay. So Lee comes over because he wants to get into action. All right. So he comes over. Now you have a dribble drive. And now typically we get ourselves in trouble. Now we force that rotation. Now the new slot has to hurry up and bust down to get in an area to see the play. And now we have a quick turnover. And now that dynamic of that tight triangle that you may hear people talk about at camp or whatever, we want to keep that tight. So it forces that rotation. And now we're a little out of whack. Okay. So the way the game is played now, think about it. Everything is outside in. You don't have a Shaq versus Karl Malone down there matchup. You don't have two guys that are bumping and doing all of funky stuff. Just hold a second, because if you stay in holds, right, the drive is coming right to you, and then we have a turnover, and now the old trail is, he's already in a great position to get down there and get the transition play. So all I would say is just be patient when you're at lead. If you feel yourself having to run, you're too late. So just stay. And then if it settles a little longer and players are on the strong side, then you make your way over there. But let's get out of the habit of hurrying up and running to get over there, because that means in my head, right, you're already just a half a step late. And then something happens, and now we may have two leads, two trails, two slots, and now we're pointing running back down the court trying to figure out where we need to go. So just be patient at lead for sure, especially the way the game is played now.
But Ernest, the ball settled below free throw line, and I've been told day in and day out that when the ball settles on the other side of the floor below free throw line, I'm supposed to get over there.
Hey, listen, you said it earlier. If I can't trust my slot in a championship game that I'm in with my crew
What
to
are we
handle this
doing?
one-on-one matchup, we got bigger problems in the league running a Usain Bolt to get over there, right?
What are we doing?
I'm gonna trust my partner. We good, we good. Like, and you're right. I think we might have talked about it on the last clean call. A lot of times we referee space or we go somewhere because someone has always told us, lead, get to the end line on the 3-foot mark. Slot, get to the free throw line extended. Trail, get to 28-foot mark. Those are just starting guidelines, right? Got to understand if I don't have a matchup, it's only what, two players over here, honestly, when the ball gets swung. So you got a dribble drive, it's coming, no competitive matchup for real. Listen, Slot got that because all he gonna do is because the way the defense closed out on him, he had no angle to do anything but pass it off. So just understanding what's happening in the game, understanding, hey, I'm gonna trust my slot to handle that. Now with 3, 4, 5, 6 guys coming over, and the ball settles underneath the free throw line, now we can start to come over. So just
And
be a little bit more patient.
and here's the thing too. If granted he did rotate over, if you're gonna go over there because you're like, hey, I need to get over there, you have to be able to recognize that, hey, that ball is passed in the corner. It's a one-on-one matchup. Slot referee is refereeing that play. And so if I am going to go over there, I have to be refereeing where I'm coming from. And so as I'm rotating to the other side, I'm refereeing over my left shoulder and I am identifying, okay, who's going to hurt me? If there's a baseline drive, that secondary defender, I got to pick him up. And the
Thanks.
way this referee is coming over on this play, he's trying to referee on ball. So now we have two sets of eyes or four eyeballs on one play. And I can guarantee you that had this been a block charge play, that lead referee would not have picked up that secondary defender in time. Because rather than refereeing where he's coming from, he's trying to referee where he's going to when he didn't have to go over there in the first place.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Ernest, I think you felt like the lead official was refereeing the ball this entire sequence, don't you?
Yeah, like if you look, he's following the ball. Because you don't have anything to referee. So if I'm at lead and I'm not refereeing anything, I want to be in help. Meaning I'm gonna find the next person, the next matchup that can hurt me, right? If he just gets to where who can hurt him, like there's really nothing going on. So you want to be in help at lead. You just want to be in help. I don't want to be in a rush to go anywhere. I want to see how the play plays out. And I'm going to trust my slot to be able to handle this matchup.
Very good. Quinn, on this next clip, I was accused by our co-podcasters of giving you all the good plays to talk about. So here's the first one.
Not an accusation, Chuck. We have video evidence.
Sure do, buddy.
And I'll repeat what I said earlier, which is you give me the ones, there's no way I could screw it up. It's so easy. This play is 100%, and I talked about it on the last clip. I talked about it, it's just discipline. If you have a closed look, don't blow your whistle. It's that easy, and it's hard because sometimes you got something inside you going, oh, something happened, right? And you've got to be able to sort of bottle that up and go, maybe something happened, but I can't see what it is, right? So we're gonna have a shot. We're going to have a turnover, and then we're going to have a foul called. So here, the new trail has called a foul. Okay. Now, again, we're actually going to get a replay, a really nice replay of this in a minute. But let's just positioning and sort of just, since that's what we're talking about, right? So we have a quick turnover. Trail, but just because of the way this play is going, Trail has a closed look. The new Trail hasn't done anything wrong. I mean, the new Trail is doing everything they're supposed to. They just have a closed look on this play. Now, what we want, right, and what has happened to a large extent is that the slot has stayed back to help referee that play. We talked about, on some previous clips, in transition, the new C is going to take sideline to sideline, free throw line to free throw line, right? So C is back to help. C doesn't have an obstructed view of this play. I would argue that maybe C didn't need to be quite so quick to get out of there, especially when we still have all 5 players in the backcourt. If C had just stood right at the division line and maybe let this develop a little bit more before taking off. But that said, C still has a good look across at this play. C has no call and has the open look. Trail has a closed look, blows the whistle. Okay, so that's not a good situation to begin with. When we see the replay here in a second, now I'm just going to let it play. There's no foul here. Okay, number 5, who's a very good player, and Chuck talk about that in a minute. I mean, it plays excellent defense, gets her hand on the ball. Well, not great offense missing that free throw, but then great defense to to steal the ball again. We call a foul.
Very good. And, you talked about discipline, all 3 of you have. And we talked about that play earlier where the lead calls a foul from across the lane on a closed look. And maybe there was a foul on that play. Maybe he got it right. But here's a closed look where we didn't get it right. Just stay away from the. This is the 3rd foul on one of White's best players. This is a major moment. Everybody wants to talk about major moments as if they only occur in end of game situations. That is not the case. A 3rd foul on a team's best player in the 3rd quarter is an important moment. That's not to say you don't call it if it's a foul. If it's a foul, it's a foul, but that's a big moment. The 2nd foul, and I think we've seen one in a clip already in an earlier clinic. Yeah, we did. A 2nd foul in the 1st quarter. That's a big moment, especially at the high school level where benches aren't deep, and the adjustments to those kinds of calls are more difficult to make than at the Division I college level. So keep that in mind. If we want to guess on plays, we're going to be 50-50 officials. That's just all there is to it. And 50-50 is not good enough at any level that anybody referees for me. I'm the only one that can be a 50-50 official because, I pay myself to be in games.
If
All
I,
right.
Chuck, really quick.
Oh, I've got a question. Oh, I'm sorry. Does somebody have something? Yeah.
Yeah, I just want the group to write this down. When I find opportunities to insert this in the clip, I will. The 4, I guess, pillars of refereeing: referee the defense, call the obvious, trust the system, and don't guess. And the last 2 here are violated. By what I mean by trusting the system is trusting the mechanics and the coverage that you all are trained to do. Had you trusted the system, you wouldn't have to guess on this play because you guessed on a closed look.
Question for Tim Ramsey. Tim, do all technical fouls count as a team foul in high school basketball? Okay, we're going to go to game management. I've got something to say about the term itself a little bit later on, but let's get to the first clip so we can get back to Greg and Ernest because they're much more entertaining and interesting than I am. And look at this clip, and then Greg, if you and Ernest will lead us in this discussion.
So it looks like we got a little talking, a little
Extracurriculars.
extracurriculars, right? I said there's 2 weeks in a row, Chuck. I ain't gonna say nothing I ain't got no business saying, all right? So I'm gonna keep it PG. But no, right? So there are times in games, right, where I feel like you don't have to have a whistle to where you can use your personality, your communication. All that's where we show, right, our personality, right? So if I'm on this game and I see it, don't know what's being said, but I'm close enough, right? I'm doing something, I'm communicating something, I'm verbalizing the fact that to let them know I see what's going on and I want you to know that I'm here, We're not going to tolerate it, right? Because sometimes everything doesn't need a whistle. Like, again, I don't know what led up to this. Let's just say it was random because kids do random stuff nowadays, right? It's perfect opportunity for us to talk through it. Again, it's not a long conversation, right? Um, because we put a foul here, right? And now the coach may not like it. So now you got to deal with him. Now you got to worry about the player who didn't get the foul going back on the other end. So sometimes doing the right thing doesn't necessarily always mean having a whistle. It means like staying out of the way, but also letting them know that you're still running the game. Um, Man, this is an opportunity I think that we could definitely have that, right? Whether it's the next dead ball, whether it was coming up the court, whether it was, but I think this is a perfect opportunity because it wasn't for me, it was over the top. But again, I'm not in the game, so I'm not saying what the referee did was right or wrong. I just think there are opportunities like this one to where we can interject ourselves positively and let the kids know, I see what's going on, right? And we're gonna make sure we cut this early to make sure nothing transpires. So just a little food for thought.
We've
Perfect.
got
I agree. I
tools in
don't
our
think
tool.
we don't have to have a whistle on everything in order to officiate effectively. Use your voice, whether in the moment or like Ernest said, first dead ball or whatever, but we could have put a stop to that little bit of extracurricular stuff without having to put a whistle on and interrupt the game.
I told you,
Uh,
I'll tell you exactly what you could have done here, Chuck, and what would have
Yep.
happened too. I can go back and predict the future if I was him. If I'm him, I take the whistle out of my mouth and I just go, hey, knock it off. You see 4 hands go like this. And then they're not going to do it.
Right.
And then let's say white does decide to do something or black does decide to do something. Everybody heard me say, stop, knock it off. And so if I do put the air in the whistle, the coach is not going to get mad at me.
You're
They're gonna
absolutely right.
you're gonna look at the player.
What is he gonna
Like, bro,
say, Greg?
he just told you.
He just told you. Yep. Yep.
And
So,
that's what I call game management, effective game management. Quinn, if we're gonna do something here, we probably needed a double foul if we're gonna put a whistle on this, but if you do put a double foul on this, where do we go? What's the rule? Where do we go from there?
yeah, so I was gonna say, so you try Greg's technique, right? You yell, "Hey, knock it off!" They go back at it 2 more times, and you decide, okay, they're both doing this. They've left me no choice now. I've tried communicating verbally, they're not listening, and so let's say you take a double foul. Okay, so important to remember, double fouls go to point of interruption. In this case, and let's assume, they have the double foul while the other player in black is still dribbling. So black is in team control of the ball. So you are going to give black the ball for a throw in at the point of interruption, at the spot nearest to where the ball was. It would be important in this case to recognize, right? You're going to have to make a determination whether this player's in the front court or the back court when you blow your whistle, because now you've got to decide whether it goes to the 28-foot mark in the front court or the back court. Um, Also, when you go to report that to the table, make sure, hey, we got a double foul, foul on whatever number black, whatever number white. Those you need to, make sure you tell the scorer, those both need to be marked down. Don't just go double foul. They may or may not really know what that means. So again, just a chance to be a little proactive there with communicating with the table.
Very good. I'll interject here just for a moment. I'm not a big, but I'd like to find some of the term of game management. When I was coming up and the term game management first came into vogue, the way it was taught kind of conjured up, we became game manipulators, not game managers. Oh, the foul count's 5-2. We need to even this foul. We need to get the foul count right. Oh, we can't call the fourth foul on the best point guard. Oh, we can't we can't call a foul at the end of the game. That would be a game that's deciding the game. All these things that had us, influencing the game as opposed to what I think are the real keys to being effective game managers, for lack of a better word. Clock awareness, situation awareness, uh, crew communication, working hard off the ball, working hard during dead balls. When you work hard off ball like that play, which I don't think the trail official could even see everything that was going on from beginning to end. I think he didn't see the very beginning of all that because he was refereeing on ball, which is actually what he's supposed to be doing. But if you're refereeing effectively off ball and during dead ball situations, players know it. They sense it. They feel it. And you can see things happening that allow you to step in, take the whistle out of your mouth, use your voice to prevent a situation that is a little troubling, as we saw right there, from becoming a bad situation. So that to me is what game management is all about. And when I talk about crew communication, I'm talking about effective communication with coaches, effective communication with players. That is so important nowadays. Didn't it used to be? It used to be we were baseball umpires. If a coach looked at us cross-eyed, we just threw his ass, we just threw him out. Now, being able to effectively communicate with coaches is really, really important, head coaches particularly, and being able to effectively communicate with players is important, and being able to effectively communicate with your crew. Those are all integral parts and important parts of how we get through games without phone calls coming into supervisors, and without fights breaking out, and without a bunch of boogers running, floating all across the floor. Right, Ernest? Ernest said, right. Question for Andrew Pittman. I got a question for Andrew Pittman, and the question is, must a team's bench be located entirely within the coaching box area? Is it required that the team bench be located entirely within the coaching box area? That's my question for Andrew Pittman. And now we can go to clip 2 and resume the Ernest and Greg podcast.
That's not a
All
bad
right.
podcast. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, we might need to get that thing
We might need to get
rolling, G.
going for
Yeah,
real.
for sure. I think this is a 3-point play, right?
Yep,
Yep.
sure is.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll start and Greg can chime in. So you got a transition play. Okay. We got a 3-point shot and we see a slot come flying in, right? So automatically we assume something went on the 3-point shot. And then when you look at it, slow-mo, right? Kudos to the lead for hustling to get down there, right? You see the guy pull up, toe on the line, right? 3-point shot. So the things I'd say here is great job for lead getting down there to get in position. What I would do on a play like this, similar to what the slot did, and Greg can chime in. What I would do if I'm lead and I'm hustling and I see this guy is getting ready to pull up for a 3, now I'm going to slow myself down to make sure I have a very, very good look, whether it's a 2 or a 3. Because if you look at where the video is frozen now, slot can't help with this. The new trail can't help with this. Lead is the one who has to signal for sure and let the trail know whether it's a 2 or 3. Okay. So easy mechanic, man. When you're in transition like that, it's a quick pull up 3, which again, just talked about it. The game is played outside, in. Just point down to that floor. 2, let your trail know it goes in. Kill it immediately. We're not in Division I. We're not in college to where we can go take a look at the monitor. So right then and there, when you know it's a 2 and someone may signal 3 and you go up with a 3, blow your whistle, let them know, go report it, get the game back rolling.
Perfect. Yes, that was a 2 rather than a 3. The trail official went up with a 3. It's actually a 2-point shot, and both the lead and the slot corrected that on the spot. I've been asked that question many times, Greg and Ernest. When do we wait for the first dead ball to make that correction? And Ernest, I agree with what you just said is the way I want it handled. The way they handled it here on the clip is the way I want it handled. So good job there, Greg. Anything to add to what Ernest had to say there?
I mean, I'm just going back to what you mentioned about how you define game management. It's having an awareness of what's going on in the game. But you also have to have an awareness of what your partners are calling, what they're not calling, but also where your partners are. And so in
Right.
this situation, understanding, hey, my trail's way in the backcourt, there's absolutely no way that he's going to have a look at whether or not this is a 3-pointer. So I just help, right? I know it's not technically my coverage area because it's outside the 3-point line and this and that, but understanding how we work as a crew chemistry, I have to help my partner here. The trail marking a 3 on this play, you have no business doing that because you have no idea. You just have to trust your partners that they're going to help you.
Very good. All right, next one. Greg, this is an interesting one. I threw you guys some meat on this one because y'all accused me, you know, of not giving you the meat.
Oh,
This is a fun one. This is a fun one. And there's definitely different things we can talk about this play. We could talk about violations, we could talk about timeouts. But what I want to focus on is you better be right with whatever you call. And why I say that is because you have to be absolutely certain that there is possession on this play to grant a timeout. And if you are not 100% sure, I would err on the side of a jump ball or a held ball, excuse me, if you're going to put a whistle on this play. If you're 100% certain that black has possession of the ball, cool. You might get a little pushback from white. And the reason why I say you're going to end up with pushback from white is, Quinn, if you can keep rolling the ball or keep rolling the clip, whistle comes, who has the ball in their hands?
right.
The team in white.
And they ready for a 3-on-1. They're about to
It is
go.
3-on-1.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Dunk
Yep.
City is in town. The Harlem Globetrotters, they're about to do their thing right now because he's got a wide open lane at the basket. So when our whistle comes, White ends up with the ball. Everybody in the arena sees that White has the ball. I don't know if everybody is sure that Black had possession of the ball. And so this goes back to us just being patient. If we
Mhm.
are patient by half a second, we're not going to put air on this whistle, and white team's going to end up with the ball. Okay, we're not going to talk about the violation on this play. That it's a little grainy, whatever. But there's potential for a backcourt. Again, if you're going to call it, you better be sure.
Yeah.
Okay, but what I want to talk about, I'll let Ernest pick up from here. Is hey, be patient. Make sure you recognize whether or not there is actual possession. Okay. 2 hands firmly on the ball, turns over. Great. Call timeout. This play over here, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But the fact that it's maybe he did, maybe he didn't, and we just keep playing basketball.
Well, this, Greg and Ernest, is why if they were gonna change a rule, they need to change this high school rule to the college rule where the head coach can't call. This puts the officials in an impossible situation.
Mhm.
Impossible situation, allowing the head coach to call for a timeout in this situation as opposed to making it be one of the players on the court. But so I really feel for him because you got to know that it's the head. You got to be able to see the ball, and then you got to know it's the coach, and you got to know who's got possession, and it's just a difficult situation. But Ernest, I made this even tougher in rehearsal because I'm making you the slot. You commended the slot official on this play, right? Tell us what you
Hmm.
like about what the slot official did on this play, Ernest.
So a lot of times when we see these plays, when there's a trap up high, slot for whatever reason likes to just hang out by the 3-point line, the free throw line, right? But the slot does a great job getting there because there is no way the trail is going to be able to see through all of this mess and look all the way over there, right? You don't know if it's a foul, you don't know if you got an elbow, you don't know if the guy's on the line, right? So kudos to the slot for making himself go up there to get into action and referee that play. So I
All
wanted to
right.
make sure I call that out because a lot of times we just stand there and we hope that the trail can see all of it.
Well, that's good, and I agree with you. But now I'm going to put you in the slot, Ernest, and I'm
All
going to put
right.
you in the suit. You're the slot official on this play, and you are 120%. I'm not, and for, I want everybody to understand this watching this video. I'm not making a judgment as to whether Black ever gained possession of this ball or not. I'm not saying one way or the other. For purposes of this discussion, I am saying that Ernest, as the slot official, is looking right at that play and is 120% certain that Black never gained possession of the ball on this play. Never gained it. Never, not for 1 second. Ernest, now what are you gonna do? Because your partner has just blown the whistle and granted Black a timeout.
Right. So I'm coming over there screaming with my whistle, not screaming at my partner. Let me clear that up. I'm going there
That,
screaming like about man. Let me clear that up before people are like, no, we're not screaming at our partners. But I'm coming over there with a very, very, very keen sense of urgency. He hold on, tweet, partner. 125% certain, like Chuck said, there was Black or whoever never had possession. Uh, let's talk about what we're going to do next, what we can do next. All right. So then, right then and there, we talk about it. I'll even bring my partner in just to make sure we're not kicking a rule. Okay.
right,
Because think about it. We're at fourth quarter, 2:12 left. I'm coming. We just had a call, and you got to think about it. When you get in these close games, don't beat yourself up about a call either way. Because guess what? One team is going to like it. One team is going to hate it. It's just how the refereeing game goes. So we want to do what's right for the game. So if I know, right, in my heart of hearts, that when he blew his whistle, he didn't have the team that he blew it for, didn't have possession, call a timeout. You don't want to go in the locker room after the game and pat each other up. We did a great job. And I'll be like, hey, Chuck, you know what, though? I think we messed up that back court right there. Like, that's not what we want to do, right? We want to do what's right for the game. So when I come in, I'm giving him all the information. I'm not coming in there and saying, are you sure he had possession? I'm coming, or I'm only coming with 125% certainty that there was no possession and that we have to have an inadvertent whistle. And when whoever had the last team control, I believe it was White in this clip, right? And then we just go explain it to the coaches. Again, one coach is not gonna like it, one coach is gonna like it. But we're doing what's right for the game. We're not leaving anything but chance. We're not going in the locker room with it because it's a championship game. So they have to wait until all the way next year to think about our screw up if we don't do what's right for the game. And that's what I would do in that situation.
that's
Here, if
perfect.
I may
And
add, Chuck, can I add something to that?
hold on
Yeah.
just a second, Greg. Yes, you
Yep.
can, but I want to make one thing clear here. I put this on Ernest because Ernest is the slot official, and Greg, you've been talking about open and closed looks for 2, 3 weeks now, right? The only guy I don't care what the lead thinks happens on this play because he doesn't have any look. So he doesn't have a dog in the fight. The only reason I'm putting it on Ernest is because he's done a great job of refereeing this play and he has a completely open look to the ball, right? Okay.
Correct.
Greg, go ahead and say what you're gonna say, and then Quinn, be ready because I'm coming to you next.
Yep. To Ernest's point, specifically about bringing information to your partners. That is what you're doing. You are bringing information to your partner. You are not going up to that partner and asking a question. Hey, are you sure? Or did you have it out on Black? It's like, that's exactly what I called. Why are you? Because now you're confusing me. I'm thinking you're coming here to bring me some value information. I might have to change a call, but you're just coming here making me question myself. Don't do that. And so in this scenario, you have to understand you are not bigger than the game. Okay. You have to be humble enough to admit when you make a mistake because it's going to happen. And so in the situation that Chuck kind of put on Ernest comes to me like, gee, I'm 120% that he did not have possession of the ball when you granted that timeout. He's not going to tell me to change it. That's the information he brought to me. And I know because Ernest isn't just going to come up to me for no reason. If he's coming to me, he's probably hinting at, hey, you should probably think about changing your call, right? In a situation like this. And if that's the case, how do you do it? Hit your whistle, boop, 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 boop. That's my mistake. That's my mistake. He did not have possession of the ball. We have an inadvertent whistle. It'll be white ball on the sideline. Let's go. That's how you would do it. Now, shoot, both teams might be mad at you, but that's what's right for the game.
No, only one team's gonna be mad at you.
Well, fair enough. That's true. The team who doesn't get the ball.
If
The
both
Black
teams are
team
mad
here that
at you, you
wanted the
got a
timeout.
dumbass out there. Quinn, why is he giving the ball to White, Quinn?
So if we rule that we have an inadvertent inadvertent whistles go to point of interruption. So we've got to know who's has team control. So if we go back to the start of this whole sequence, so we have a White player in player control of the ball. So White is in team control of the ball, and White's going to remain in team control until essentially one of two things happens. They take a shot, in which case they'll lose team control, or Black gains team control. In this case here, the ball is loose. Uh, we don't have any black team member in control of the ball. Okay, now you would have to make a determination at some point, and this all depends on exactly when the whistle is blown. So if we advance this just a little bit, so here certainly, I don't think there's any argument that at this point white is still in team control. The ball is loose, so white is still in team control. Now, let's say right here, it's tough to tell whether black might control the ball or not. But if black controls the ball, then you're going to grant them that timeout, right?
Right.
So if we sort of assume we're talking about beforehand, right, and black never gains control of the ball, then if black's never gained control of the ball, white's never lost team control. So they get the ball back for a throw in. Again, it's going to be at it's going to be point of interruption. So the spot closest where the ball was. In this case, the ball's in the back court. We're going to take it to the 28-foot mark in the back court.
Very good. Now, when you give the ball, when you decide black's not going to get the timeout and that white's going to get the ball back, let's say that there's an alternating possession arrow here and it would have been in favor of, let's say, black. But you got to tell the coach, no, not only do you not get the timeout, but white gets the ball back because that's the rule. That's just a explanation and move on. You cannot get yourself locked into a debate over that because there's nothing to debate. You're 100% correct by rule. You just need to put the ball back in play and move on. And take whatever, there's going to be some heat. That's part of game management, is understanding when heat's coming and when it's probably a little bit deserved, and understand you're just going to have to take some of that heat. That's just all there is to it. It can't be, abusive, but I hopefully everybody understands what I'm saying. All right, next clip. I really like this one, Ernest.
uh,
What do we do now, Ernest?
so listen, we didn't have a whistle on this play. All right. So let's just talk about it. Okay. We have to recognize one, the defender is late getting over there. So not at any point in this clip was the defender ever legal. Okay. We don't have a whistle. We got a kid hurt. I don't know, right, how good the kid is. But at this point, with 5:47 left in the first quarter, right, we've put ourselves in a box to where now we have the coach unhappy. And now we got him riled up. Championship game, first quarter, his kid may be injured for the game, don't know how important his kid is. And it's on us. Okay. So when we think about game management, right? One, the kid goes down. In my head, I have to know if I'm that official, okay, we just screwed this up. The coach is not going to be happy. Get away. Okay. You don't want to be in that area where the coach is, because all this opportunity is for him is to just let you have it. And you're going to have to eat that. You're going to have to take whatever he says for the most part, right? Because think about if you hit him with a technical foul after he just told you about yourself, and we missed a call because that's a foul. Okay. You can't come out and hit him with a technical foul now, because now it looks personal. So my advice, and I learned this because of mistakes I've made and just through experience, when there's an injured player on the court and we miss a foul, whether the coach thinks it's right or wrong or we don't know, just get away, right? You have to get away, right? Let the coach be mad, let him say what he or she is going to say, and then go back and do what we need to do. I think one of the reasons that on this play we don't get the foul is because we're a little too tight on that baseline. If we're wide, we can see. We were wider, we can see it. Because look at the lead official continue to walk down. If he just stays by where that D, or in between that D and that E, just stop. And I can see that guy's 34 is not even there. He got his arms up, but that has nothing to do. This is not a verticality play. He sticks his leg out.
It's important to know, or note, I should say, that whether or not we have a whistle on this play, the player's going to get hurt. Like, that's just how the play ended up, right? But because we don't have a whistle on this play, everybody is just going to blame you, which sucks because obviously you have no bearing on whether or not this player is going to get hurt. And so you call a foul, player gets hurt, coach comes out. I mean, he might say something to you about a different play, but it's not going to be about this. You don't have a whistle on this play. Now it's about you. Now it's your fault that his player is hurt, and he's going to give it to you.
Yeah. We have a tendency to want to stand over these injured players like we're going to do something about it. We're not EMS people. We're not doctors. We're not trained. Don't touch them. Don't just get away. Just get away. And recollect your thoughts. And, if the coach is going to come after you, make him chase you, before you stick him. Don't stand there where whatever he's got to say, Ernest, is going to be something only you can hear. So there's not a whole lot you can do about it, right?
That's right. You got to eat that one, especially when we know this is where um we know when we mess up. Like we know when we miss calls, right? The obvious
Right.
ones. So just hold yourself accountable. Right? You'll build that much more credibility with the coaches at the end of the day.
Quinn,
So,
we have some rules that pertain to injured and bleeding players that if you could just review them very quickly, since we have a player that just about got his leg. By the way, Ernest, he's an important player, but by the way. Go ahead, Quinn.
yeah, well, I am a doctor, so, but not that kind of doctor. So,
Let
That was a
him
good
know,
one. That was a
Quinn.
good
Let
one,
him
Quinn. That
know.
was a
Let
good
him
one,
know.
so, so if you
Quinn.
have any timing issues and you need some numbers subtracted, you come right to me. Um,
Put some respect on Quinn's name. Come on now.
um, so we have an injured player, injured players. I think this is an area where we want to exercise some good common sense here. So, um, we know that our rule says if we beckon a coach or a trainer, someone, if we beckon someone out for the injured player, whether or not someone comes, once we beckon, that player has to be replaced. If um, if a coach or a trainer for that team, if the blue coach sees him go down like that and the blue coach starts sprinting out there, right, that's fine. We're not going to make a big deal about it because we didn't beckon them, but that player is going to have to be replaced because that coach has now come out onto the court to tend to this injured player. Um, where we want to, exercise some common sense is in two regards. One is, give players a beat. I mean, unless, if the guy goes down and his head hits the court, okay, we don't need to wait, right? But in this situation where the guy goes down, you're not maybe immediately going to know how injured he is. You know, I might give him a second. Now he's rolling around pretty good here. But if he's just laying there, I might go, hey, well, I don't know what his number is. Number one, hey, one, you good or you need somebody, right? And I might give him a chance to get up on his own. Maybe if he needs a half a second to catch his breath, you know, and he gets up, then we're good. We can play on. So that's one. Don't just beckon immediately unless it's just absolutely obvious that this player is very hurt. The second is, if out of instinct, I think this can happen sometimes at a Christmas tournament game too, that maybe one team has a trainer, the other doesn't, but the visiting team's trainer just sprints over. So the white team's trainer starts sprinting over, nobody's beckoned them, and then this player jumps right up. We're not going to make him come out of the game when the visiting team's trainer decided that they were going to jump into action. Now, again, if we beckon them, that's a different story, right? But again, use some good common sense around these things. A reminder here: if we had a foul and blue was going to shoot in high school basketball, the blue substitute would shoot the free throws. Okay, so it's different than the college rule. Don't get those mixed up. Nobody gets to pick. It's the substitute that shoots when we have an injured player. Uh, if the coach wanted to, prevent this is a good player, I don't want to. It's granted it's in the first quarter here, but let's say we were later in the game. Coach doesn't want to take his best player out. He could then essentially buy that player back in by calling a timeout. So a 30 or full, either one. But if he is charged a timeout, that player could then remain in the game.
Perfect. Next clip. Greg and Ernest. I love this play. This is one of my favorite ones, Greg.
No, Lord.
Oh, I love this one. I love this one. Oh, that was such a vicious foul, Chuck. I'm glad that we picked it up. That was pretty.
We needed a monitor to go
We
review that.
might, yeah, someone's getting thrown out of the game after this one.
We might want to upgrade that one to an intentional.
Exactly. Chuck, unlike, because remember, Chuck, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, maybe it was last week, we had that clip. There was like a baseline drive. Homeboy like sticks his leg out, bumps him out of bounds. He dumped it off. We talked about whether or not we should put a whistle on that play. And on that play, we did. This one, similar, right? Able to dump it off. We have a foul. That's not a foul. Or at least don't call that one.
It's
Because
contact, but it's not a foul.
correct.
There may be some contact, but it's not a foul.
There may be some contact, but remember how we talked about SQBR, squibber, speed, quickness, balance, and rhythm. None of those were affected here. Now, Greg, he's got his forearm on his waist. He's driving to the basket and he maintains it there. Does that happen? Sure. Where does it happen? It happens at the ACC logo. At that point, it's really, really hard to sell a hand checking call or having a forearm on the waist when they're that close to the basket. And with this play, what I want to, I guess, emphasize, think about it like a stoplight, right? You have a red light, green light, and yellow. Anything above that 3-point line, keep your hands off of them. It's a green light. You have license to call a foul if you want to. Once you start getting below the 3-point line, around where that ACC logo is, you're like at a yellow, and you want to be careful with trying to beat the light before it turns red. So you might want to stay away from that one. And this is specifically for hand checks that we're talking about. Once you get below that ACC logo, that's a red. Do not call a hand checking foul that close to the basket. And so with this play specifically, it's just not enough. I know it's still the first quarter. We're trying to establish a tone. I'm sure referees have talked about in pre-games and whatnot. The only tone that sets is that the coaches are going to be irritated with you because it doesn't fit the game at this point.
In particular, and this is where I want to distinguish between what I'm going to say is I'm not saying that we don't call the foul here because of what the score is. But what you have to understand was once this call is made, to Greg's point about irritating coaches, this blue team is down by 11 in the first quarter. And your whistle just took away a wide open, easy 2 points for them. Now they've got to throw the ball in. Now, I'm not saying that that's the determining factor in whether or not that's a foul. That's not a foul because it doesn't affect the factors that Greg mentioned. But now that we have blown our whistle, the game management piece is not know that and don't call the foul. The game management piece is now you've got to understand and be prepared to communicate with coaches and deal with reactions based off the reality of what just happened. You've got to anticipate that as soon as the whistle's blown.
And Quinn, to that point, when you talk about reality, the reality is that coaches, for the most part, whether or not they intend to, they always think we have something out against them. And what's going to happen in this game, or I mean, it could have happened in this game, is you call that on this end, and you don't call that foul on the other end. The coach immediately thinks that you have something out against them. They're down by 11. They're probably not playing well. They're missing shots. This is their opportunity to almost have an easy basket, and you take that away from them. We go to the other end and we don't have a similar call. Now the coach is like, of course, we're the road team. That's how, granted, this is a championship game, so it's a neutral site. But let's say this team's on the road in a packed gym. It's like, of course I'm going to get that whistle or not get the whistle on the other end.
If you do call that foul on the other end, and you're gonna call that foul all night long, it's gonna be a long, long night. Isn't it, Ernest? We're gonna be there for a long time.
More power to you because you don't get paid by the hour.
Quinn, what do you do if I say skip the next clip and clip number 6, just skip it. Let's go to clip number 7, because that's a big one for Ernest and Greg, clip number 7. Yeah, skip that one.
All right. I think this is yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll put it in context for you Ernest and Greg. I'll put it in context real quick. So you can see the score for yourself. It's 41-41. And the team for Black comes down, they score a basket to go up 43-41 in the fourth quarter. White has no timeouts left. They've used all their timeouts. So that goes up and there's time. So now, two officials have granted well, at least one. The lead official is granting a timeout clearly requested by White right here with time on the clock. More than 0.3 of a second when it was asked for, when it was granted. Okay, there we are, guys. It's all yours. And they grant the timeout, but then they take it back and the game's over 43-41. Championship game has been decided
Go ahead,
by
go
the
ahead.
officials.
You know,
That's what I
I
would
was
call game management under the old, the old teachings.
under the
Go
old
ahead.
teachings, get out of there and go to the locker room. You know, technical foul, they're gonna shoot two or whatever. For one, everybody saw or heard your whistle and you signal that somebody called a timeout. You stopped the game. And I can understand if there's like 0.5 seconds left, then you just like, oh, my whistle came at the same time as the horn and no one knows what really happened. And you know your rules. We're assuming you're a championship referee, you know the rules. So you know that you're out of timeouts. It's going to be a technical foul. So this team could potentially go down by 4 and they don't have the possession. So what does it matter? What matters is we get paid to enforce the rules. And this right here, you have not one, but 2 referees stop play for some reason. And we have to acknowledge that, hey, listen, you called the timeout. And at this level, and all this can be going through your head, there's virtually no chance that they're going to come back. But there is. And you have high level coaches that understand that. The coach on the other side, if they didn't know, sucks for them. But I'm sure the assistant coaches know, and the head coach knows that they're out of timeouts. The players might not know. They're just calling a timeout because they think they can. But they might have something drawn up for that. They could practice a situation where they're out of timeouts, they're down by 2 with 2 seconds left. They're going to call a timeout, take the technical foul, and we're going to just see what happens. Because they can miss both free throws, turn the ball over, go down the other end and shoot a half-court heave and win the game. So for them, there's still a chance. And with this clip specifically, there is just way too much time between the time the lead referee hits their whistle to grant the timeout to the time of expiration of the clock. There's like 1.6 seconds or something like that. We can't ignore it. So where we're going to get dinged here, you called the timeout. Why didn't you give it to me?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I think the important thing to realize here as referees is we say, well, we grant this timeout, we're the bad guys. We didn't ask for the timeout. They asked for the timeout.
Mm-hmm.
They're entitled to it by rule. It's just they can buy a timeout at the expense of a technical foul. And we've got to assume, as Greg said, that that's exactly what they were doing. They were purchasing a timeout. The only way they could stay in this basketball game was to hope that the other team missed at least one of the 2 free throws and then turn the ball over on the ensuing throw in, right? And we get a chance to score.
The clock doesn't stop in high school basketball.
Right.
It doesn't stop. And so, like you said, Chuck, they're down by 2. What's the worst that can happen if you grant the timeout? They go down by 2. They get the ball back and put the shot up again. They're probably just going to dribble it out anyway. So instead of losing by 2, you lose by 4.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's an L in the loss column. So you got nothing to lose there.
Ernest, you got anything to add to that? You just decided
Nah,
the state championship game.
No. See, that's where we get it wrong. They decided the state championship game when they called the timeout they didn't have. So that's the mentality we got to change for sure, right?
Right.
Yep. And I think in rehearsal, we talked about, Chuck, when you're going back to like the old days, or I think Quinn might have mentioned it. In this situation, we're like, listen, there's no chance you're going to come back. Let's just get to the locker room, The game's going to be over. We're going to, high five each other, and then that's going to be that. You're going to get a phone call from somebody, whether it be your supervisor, somebody that you know who's watching the game, the state assigner. Like, hey, you guys do realize you messed the end of the game up, right? Because you granted a timeout and then you let the clock run out, and then you didn't go back to fix the clock. Like, by rule, this is what you had to do. On the other hand, let's say you did grant the timeout and you did what you were supposed to do. What's going to happen? Well, you did everything right. The worst that's going to happen is you might get some people like, could you have laid off of it? Maybe, maybe not. But that's really about it because you did what you were supposed to do. You did your job.
Right. So Ernest, I don't know. Well, let me ask the question this way. I think that maybe what happened here is they realized that they had granted the timeout, but they had no idea. The clock ran out. The clock didn't stop.
Correct.
I'm thinking they have no idea how much time to put on the clock. And so they said, oh, we don't know. We don't have definite knowledge, so game over. What do you think about that, Ernest? And by the way, they have a monitor in this game. They could have gone to the monitor because it's a state championship game, but it's in a normal high school game, in a regular high school game, we don't have a monitor to go to.
Mm-hmm.
So let's assume that the three of us, you, me, and Greg, because Quinn's not at that level yet. Let's assume the three of us are in this game and one of us grants that timeout and we come together and say, oh, hell, the time's run out. How are we going to put time back on the clock in that situation?
We got to reconstruct the play.
Yep.
We're not just saying, hey, we're going to put 5 seconds on there and restart the play. We're not going to do that.
Right.
But like you can have a good estimate of how much time should be on there. Like, hey, they grabbed the rebound. She took 2 steps to walk out of bounds. Then I turned and then I saw, okay, that took about a second and a half or two. Let's put a second on the game clock, or let's put a second and a half on the game clock. You can do that.
Yep.
Yeah. So first of all, somebody in this crew, in any crew that I assign, has to have good, again, game management involves clock management, clock awareness. You can't start worrying about the clock in the last seconds of a basketball game, not having paid any attention to it at all for the first 30 or some 40 minutes. That's muscle memory. When a whistle blows, somebody's got to be looking at that clock. That's number one. But if nobody, when we say don't guess, I'm telling you right now, we better come together and we better have an educated guess about how much time we're going to put back on that clock. And don't tell anybody you're guessing. And get away from the players so they don't know you're guessing. But we're going to have it's not going to be a wag. Does everybody know what a wag is? A wag is a wild ass guess. We're going to have an educated guess, right, Quinn?
Yes. And so somebody here's got to step up and say, hold on. We got to slow this down. Get the crew together, send the teams to their benches. Worst case scenario, not at here, but worst case scenario, you get together and talk about it and decide the game should be over. You turn to the table, you signal the game's over, and you go to the locker room. Or you get together and go, okay, hold on. In this case, like this trail official might know nothing other, or the new lead might know nothing other than I know that whistle came before the horn. So hold on, we gotta, and let's do that reconstruction that Greg talked about. But somebody's got to have the fortitude to step up and take ownership of that moment. That's game management.
I'll tell you this, Chuck. For those referees who have aspirations to make it to the college level, especially in this region, the amount of times we've heard clocks and clock awareness and being good with clocks, I'm telling you, that'll get you hired if you're really good with clocks and just this game management situation that just happened.
Yeah.
I go so far as to say a lot of the summer stuff we're doing, even at the high school level, high school fall league stuff. There's a lot of running clock stuff that we're doing. Every time a whistle blows, if I'm on the court, I try to look at the clock as if we were in a regular game. When the whistle blows, I'm looking. I know the clock's running, but I'm trying to. It's muscle memory. It's muscle memory. I'm telling you. Just be aware of the clock. real quick on this one, Quinn, if you just run this through, this is a veteran crew with a outstanding crew chief. The officials are good. Everything's good. This is halftime, and I don't like this look. This official can get away with this because of his stature, his experience, his reputation. But this is not a good look. I don't like it. So there's a couple of things I want to say about this. Don't chase a coach, make a coach chase you. Does that make sense, guys?
Oh yeah.
Number two, I said something last week in jest about this is the same game where we saw the screens and all that kind of stuff. And I said something in jest about the head coach was halfway asleep on the bench, and don't let the assistant coach poke him. Well, I can assure you the head coach was not asleep on the bench or even halfway asleep on that bench. That head coach can coach, but we're not. This is not permissible. This is an assistant coach. Get away from him if you can. Don't chase him. Make him chase. But he's not going to come out in the middle of the court and have commentary with our officials like this. So if you've got two ways to handle it: stick him immediately or give him the stop sign and try to walk away from him and make him chase you. If he chases you, it's automatic. Somebody stick him. Not this. I'm not talking about this individual. This is not a personal thing. Any assistant coach, it could be anybody. We can't do it this way. And I think the alternate way of doing it is pretty much you can figure it out for yourself. And the other thing is, now you see the assistant coaches, the coaches for the other team, they're aware of everything that's going on. So they're going like, wait a minute. How are you going to allow that? So just get yourself out of that situation. Again, that's a veteran crew and a veteran official who can get away with that as far as how it's going to impact that game. But the next crew might not be as strong as that crew in terms of their ability to handle coaches at that level. So let's be consistent from crew to crew, official to official, on how we're going to handle a situation like that and not do it that way. This next one, Greg and Ernest and Quinn and I, there are two ways to comment on this play, and we're going to comment on both the way it was handled and why it would be handled correctly in one scenario, and how we would handle it differently if the scenario was a little different. Greg?
Yeah. Just to provide some context here, because we don't have any audio, the horn goes off. Okay. The horn goes off, right? The ball is live currently because the ball is in the thrower in hands, right? And so the two different scenarios we want to talk about is one, the horn goes off about right now or a little after right now while the throw-in is happening. And then two, the horn would go off after the ball is in possession of the white team's hands. Number 4, I think, is the guard. He's going to get the throw in. So Quinny, if you want to run it, horn goes off, everyone stops play, rolls the ball out of bounds. Or in a different situation, like I mentioned, the horn would go off after white 4 touches the ball. How are we going to handle this situation? And again, you can be right in two different scenarios. And then there's one thing that the crew did not get right in either scenario that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But what I wanted to talk about specifically is, hey, we have a situation where the horn goes off while the throw-in is happening and players stop playing. It leads to a turnover. What would be the right thing to do in that context? And what we can do, you get together with your crew, be like, hey, horn went off as he's throwing the ball in play. Everybody stop playing. What we can do is we're just going to restart the game. Not the game, sorry, but that specific possession.
Yeah, let's not restart the game.
Yeah, we are not doing that. But yeah, so we'll go back. We'll give White the ball. If he has privileges to run the end line, he'll still have privileges to run the end line. And we're just going to continue playing there. The gold team, they might have a problem with it because, hey, they just turned the ball over. It should be gold ball. and we're like, no, 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 the horn went off and everybody stopped playing. That's one way you can approach it. The other way you can approach it is what happens in this situation, right? Because technically, we need to be very clear about this. The horn does not stop play. Okay. So ball gets thrown in, White gets the ball, horn goes off, White just throws the ball out of bounds. Again, we want to kill play, make sure everybody knows we acknowledge that something weird happened. Go talk to your partners. Be like, hey, by rule, the horn went off. You're still supposed to keep playing. So ball goes out of bounds. Unfortunately, it's going to have to be Gold's ball. I think one thing that's important to note here is it's the white team's home table, okay? And then the white team is the one that turns the ball over. We are supported by rule that the ball just went out of bounds. We're going to give the Gold team the ball. Who are they going to be mad at? They're going to be mad at you because you just took the ball away because, hey, you know, everybody stopped moving, but it's your table. Why is your table blowing the horn when you had the ball already? So I'll let Ernest or Chuck or Quinn take over, but that's what I wanted to say about that play.
Ernest, one of the key things here is that the crew has to know that there's 42.5 seconds on the clock when we're throwing the ball in, right? Everybody in the crew should know that, right?
Correct.
Okay, so the crew ruled on this play, Ernest, that that 4 caught the ball and then the horn went off and then 4 threw the ball out of bounds. So they're going to award the ball to Gold. So we're going to see Gold. Do we have the throw in coming, Quinn?
Do we have the for
Yeah,
Gold?
do we show the throw in? Yeah. So how much time is still on the clock, Ernest?
Looks like 42 and a half.
So that's what we started with, but we've just said that White legally touched the ball and then threw the ball out of bounds. So what are we
Correct.
gonna do with the clock, Ernest?
So for me, I'm at least taking 0.3 off the clock for a touch. And then, to me, that's the safest thing. It may be a little bit more because of the touch and then the rollout, but at least 0.3, and you're covered by rule for sure.
Right.
And,
So
and, and I
you,
think to that point, right? So if Ernest and I get together to talk about that, and Ernest says point three, the next thing I'm gonna say is, hey, it was more than a touch. You know, he touched it, it bounced, it goes out. You know, I think maybe point seven or whatever. But right, we're
Right.
gonna have that conversation like we were talking about earlier, reconstructing what happened and coming up with an estimate of what we need to take
Mhm.
off the clock. The one thing we know for sure is it's not 42.5.
right,
Correct. Correct.
okay. All right, unless somebody else has something to say, I've got a question for Ashley King. Ashley, A to the basket and is intentionally fouled while in the act of shooting. The ball goes in. Does the goal count? That's the first question. And the second question, same scenario. How many free throws, if any, for A1 as a result of the intentional foul? So A1 drives to the basket, is fouled on the drive to the basket in the act of shooting, intentionally fouled, ball goes in the basket. Does the goal count? And how many free throws does A1 get, if any? All right.
All right. For this last play, we're going to revisit the large play we saw last time. So we've already talked about this in the context of in context of the coverage and the block charge rule. So we're not going to talk about all that. We're going to talk about what happens next. So we've had a blarge. Okay. The first thing I want to sort of say is that anytime you have a situation where not all of the officials are involved, but in this case you got two officials that are sort of tied up in this large call. That third official has the opportunity to be somebody who comes in and slows us down and settles the whole thing out and can provide us sort of a calm perspective of what we're going to do next. So in this situation, we've had the blarge. Okay, so the two calling officials start to get together, and you see the third official is standing out here. Now, I want to commend the third official because the first thing that the old trail does is notices that this one coach, he's starting to signal. Hard to tell exactly. He's yelling, he's pointing, does a good job of coming over and just saying, "Hey, give us a second. We got you. We hear you. We're going to work through this." Okay. So it seems to acknowledge and calm the coach down a little bit to give him some time. What we'd like to see the third official do now is get in there with his partners and say, all right, we've got a blarge, and sort of help facilitate that conversation of where we're gonna go next. So the important thing, anytime we have these sort of atypical situations, usually we get together and usually we understand we got to get the ruling right. So right in this case, we have a blarge, so we have a crash, we have one official signal a block, the other signal a charge, and in this situation they have ruled that that happens after the shooter has released the ball. So there's no team control. That's important. So in terms of getting the ruling correct, we have a double foul. And I think what happens is we get together and we go, oh crap, we got a blarge, that's a double foul. Okay. But that's not the whole story. When we have these atypical situations, you want to make sure that you understand, in addition to not just we have a blarge, okay, what two players are we going to report the double foul on, right? How are we going to resume play after this, right? So we have a double foul with no obvious point of interruption because there's no team control. So now we're going to have an alternating possession throw in. Okay, well, we have alternating possession throw in, so we need to make sure, right, the table's aware of that. So we walk through all that. So I'm looking over, okay, or, hopefully I know, right, okay, red has the ball for the alternating possession throw in. So we're going to give red the ball for an alternating possession throw in. Do I need to do anything? In this case, the clock stopped everything. But anytime we have atypical situations, is the time right? Right. As a crew, we've got to all get on the same page about that. Once we're all on the same page about that, now we've got to go and explain to the table what needs to happen, and then we've got to explain to the coaches what's going to happen, right? So we need to go to the table. All right, we've got a double foul. We have a foul on white number whatever and red number whatever. Those both count as personal fouls to those players in the book. Okay. If you're the off official who maybe isn't over at the table, if they got fouls up on the board, I'm making sure those fouls go up by one, right? All right, now the next we're going to have, so now we're going to put the ball in play. We're going to have an alternating possession throw in. Red's going to get it. Once red completes the throw in, make sure you switch the arrow, right? So I think Greg, when we were talking through this earlier, I mean, he emphasized, the more specific you can be in these atypical situations to the table, the better. But again, we're not going to trust that necessarily. I mean, we're going to tell them, we're going to trust them to do their job, but we're also going to, what's the old saying?
Verify.
Trust but verify, right? So I'm going to make sure that ball goes in play, the arrow gets switched, right? All right, so now we've got everything sorted out with the table. Now we've got to communicate with the coaches, okay? In this situation, they're both going to be unhappy with the result. Just accept that. You're not going to do anything to change that. They're gonna be frustrated. They're gonna be mad. Whatever. Just acknowledge that. All right. In this situation, you do what your supervisor wants you to do, and I think in this case, because they'll tell me if I'm wrong, but bring the two coaches together. Okay. Say, all right. Here's what's happened by rule. Here's what we do. Red gets a ball for an alternating possession throw in down here. Both players have been charged a foul, and get the ball back in play as quickly as you can. We're not having a debate about it. We're not having we need to get them back to coaching. We need to do what's right by rule and get them back to coaching. Okay. Now, in this scenario, what we have happen is we don't get all the information right at the first go round. So we have players lined up for a free throw, even though we're not going to shoot free throws. So we have players lined up for a free throw, officials are hanging out. Then finally, here in a minute, the official who's over at the table, which by the way, there shouldn't be one in these atypical situations. If you're going to get the coaches together, get at least two officials over there. So we're standing around. I'll sort of fast forward a little bit here. Okay, then he comes back and goes, wait. No, it's going to be a throw in for red down here. Okay, so then we go down here. We finally get that right. What ends up happening though is that only the official who went to the table is aware that it's an alternating possession throw in. So what happens is we give red the ball, red throws it in, but the arrow is not switched. And now there's a coach yelling, but we never get together and really discuss, again, that resumption of play piece that should have happened at the very beginning. So it looks optically very bad because we're not communicating well about what should happen next. And in this case, it leads to us I think later there is another alternating possession throw in, and we give it to the wrong team. We give it to red again because this was not counted as an alternating possession throw in. Anything I missed there? Anything you guys want to add to?
You didn't miss anything, but I would like to add something. Just a quick note.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not gonna put words in Chuck's mouth, but I will talk from experience, from what supervisors have told me about why certain referees get certain assignments, especially if they're big assignments. And it's because they're looking for referees who know how to run the game. You could be a great play caller, great game manager, but you have to know how to run the game. And so you can take this exact same scenario, right? The amount of time that it took from the blarge happening to us putting the ball back in play. You have one scenario, which is what we're looking at here. Go to the table, come back, talk as a crew. The person, the referee who has the ball in his hand initially has no idea what's going on. So now we're playing a waiting game. That's one scenario. Scenario two, the scenario where you have referees who know how to run the game, you know what the rule is. You have a blarge. All right, it's going to be a double foul. Shot attempt was missed. Got to go to the AP arrow. As a crew, when you get together, all that is being discussed. Might take a little bit of time to put all the details together, but once we leave that huddle, you got the referees who go to the table. You have another referee who goes to set up play for resumption of play. So as soon as the information has been communicated to the coaches, referees turn around, we're ready to go. Because this just looks like we don't know what we're doing, or we're very confused as to what happened. And so if you want to figure out a way to start getting those bigger assignments, quote unquote bigger assignments, it's understanding how to run a game. And in situations like this, it happens to the best of us. If it happens, you know the rule, just figure it out, keep the game moving.
Absolutely. You know, the default position here on a play like this is to be upset with yourself. You know, I don't want a blarge in my game. Nobody wants a blarge in their game. Nobody wants boogers in their game. But didn't we have I mean, it can happen. It can happen. It happened to a very crew here, as we're seeing in this clip. It happened to a very good crew in the Sweet 16, wasn't it, Greg? You know, it can happen to anybody. Haven't you had a blarge, Quinn? Yeah.
Yes, with a very good official.
Yeah, so it can happen. So there's no sense the natural reaction is to get upset. Be upset with yourself, be upset with the other guy, or be upset with the world. Uh, we need to not to do that. We just need to understand that's part of the game too. We hate it, but let's just get this thing fixed, worked out, managed, and move on. Ernest, anything to add?
Y'all covered it, man. I have nothing else for me.
All right, well, it's been fun. I hope this was helpful to everybody. But that concludes the 5th NBOA clinic. We've got one more to go. So that makes this one the penultimate one. I just had to throw that in there. Good night, everybody. Thank you.